Great, let's get started. So hello, and thank you for joining us today. We are excited to have you here for this Doctorate in Business Administration, DBA, info session hosted by Grenoble École de Management. And today we're excited to share with you a bit about the role of research and explore the research process through a real-world case study and introduce you to GEM's DBA program. So a bit about the agenda, we'll quickly introduce ourselves, we'll dive into our topics, and then at the end, we will have a Q&A session in which we'll stop our recording, and you're welcome to turn on your cameras and your mics or type your questions into the chat, and we can answer any questions you might have about the program. So I am Ginny Hinderscheid. I am the head of marketing of post-experience programs. That's the DBA, the MBA, and our 2 executive MBAs. And I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Dima Lewis. I'm the academic director of the DBA France program. And I'm also a DBA graduate myself. So I've been in your place years ago, exploring the interest of doing the DBA. So I hope I'll be able to answer your questions about the DBA, both having experienced it myself and now as the academic director. Sumitra?
Hi, I'm Sumitra Banerjee. I'm an associate professor of marketing. I've been in the field for a long time. I did my PhD at INSEAD, and before that, my MBA and MSc and others. I'm a game theorist, so I apply the method of game theory on marketing research questions, current research questions to find a solution or answer to those questions.
All right, thank you. And with that, I'm going to pass the reins to Professor Lewis, who will discuss the role of business research, or just give you a snapshot. Or tell you about the DBA.
Thank you, Ginny. So if you're here today, you're probably familiar already with what the DBA is. So I'm going to try to be very brief now to leave time to Sumitra to talk about applied research as well, and then to leave time for questions and answers. So as you can see on the slide here, the DBA is a 3-year part-time program aimed at business leaders and academics. So the DBA is really a bridge between academia, the academic world, and the business world. And we usually target either managers, leaders in organizations who want to take empirical research, academic knowledge to try to solve real-life problems, or people in academia, meaning teaching already, who want the DBA, the doctorate recognition, to further progress their career in academia. In both cases, we're really bridging the 2 worlds of business world, management, and academia rigor in empirical research to address real-life management and business problems. So if you can switch to the next slide, Ginny. So why business research is important for solving real-world challenges? Because the world we're living in now, in management and business, the existing solutions, the existing theories are not able to address the problems and the challenges that we're facing today. So whether challenges related to the environment, whether geopolitical challenges, whether all the changes in AI, businesses are increasingly finding it difficult to address all these changes. And this is where academic research plays an important role. And this is where the DBA is really key in addressing these issues. So we tend to use a word when we talk about people doing this kind of academic research. We tend to call them pracademics. So they are practitioner and academics at the same time. So people who come to the DBA come with a real business problem to which they don't have existing solutions, and they help find solutions. So this is really what the DBA is about. And now you're going to hear from Sumitro about his research and the role it plays in really making an impact for companies in policy making and so on. So, Sumitro.
Hi, thank you very much, Ginny and Dima, for inviting me to talk about my research. Um, so to continue from what Dima just said, so research is like understanding causal inference, cause effect inference, right? So, and if you have a reliable, if you identify or understand reliably a cause and effect relationship, then you can do a lot with it. You can improve your performance, you can gain in markets, and so on and so forth. The question that I have been lately talking about, which is pretty salient in a lot of companies and also governments, is how to incentivize companies to reduce their carbon emissions, right? So there have been a lot of global conferences like Paris conferences, pretty, I mean, one of the most famous ones, that they agreed to certain level of carbon emission reduction and achievement of certain percentage of carbon emissions across industries and countries. Now, the question really is that how does government give incentives to companies to, we know that without incentives, this doesn't work. So, you know, the firms are not going to do it for free. So, the question is, how does government give incentives to firms to reduce their carbon emissions? This is this seems to be pretty obvious question to answer. I mean, the answer seems to be pretty obvious, but actually it's not. The reason is that firms are different, companies are different. They have products of different qualities, they have different marginal costs, they have different level of emissions, they have different volume of sales. Now, if you have a particular incentive given to company A designed for company A to reach the target, that doesn't mean that company B in the same industry will change the performance to the same degree with these incentives. Okay, so how does government give an incentive to differentiated firms and industries? Now, going to answer this question, Ginny, next slide, please. Thank you. So, going to how to answer this question, there are many ways to answer this question. First is the classic, the most traditional, most common way that we look at the past to predict the future. And past is nothing but captured in numbers, which we call data. So if the past and present and future are in a stable condition, that is, the conditions prevailing in the past also prevail in the conditions now and in the future, then data can give us very good insights about the future or what to do in the future. Okay. So, like somebody said, the philosophy of empirical research is that past is the best predictor of the future. There is another approach, which is less commonly known in the world of practitioners or common people, which is theoretical research. Theoretical research does something different. Theoretical research looks at the conditions that exist or should exist to engender a change. And based on those conditions, you analyze those conditions to find what is the best behavior of every agent under those conditions. And the agents are like the firms involved, the regulator, the consumers, and the public also sometimes. So my type of research is to we understand the motivations of each agent in these conditions, and we anticipate or you solve for the best action of each of these agents. Remember, these agents are not taking the action on their own, but they are taking the best action possible. That is, the action that gives them the best rewards given or anticipating the other person's actions. For example, there are two firms competing in the market. One has a high product quality, the other one has a low product quality, but they still compete in the market. And this is a very common situation in the market. Now, the firm with a low quality product anticipates what price, for example, the high quality firm will set, and then sets its price accordingly. Similarly, the firm that produces a high quality product anticipates what the low quality product will set price as, and then sets the price accordingly to maximize profits. So this is the basic idea of game theory, which is that you make the best decision possible, anticipating the optimal action of the other person who you're competing with. So this is analytical modeling, and all I do is basically formulate, model the decisions, and solve for an equilibrium, very popularly called the Nash equilibrium. In case you've seen The Beautiful Mind, the movie, Oh, Beautiful Mind, you know what I'm talking about. If you have not, it's about John Nash, who created this concept about 50 years ago. And that concept is helping us understand nature of decision making by a lot of economic actors. So, uh, can we move to the next one, Ginny? Thank you. Okay, so what we find is first one is pretty straightforward, that if you give incentives for firms to reduce their carbon emissions, these incentives work. Okay. Now, what happens is that there are groups of people out there, both among practitioners and population. They say that the scheme called carbon tax is not so good. The scheme called cap and trade, which is very popular, that you have set a cap, and then if you produce above the cap, have emissions above the cap, then you pay tax. But if you're emitting below the cap, then you can trade this excess as carbon credit in the market. And there are carbon credits everywhere in European market, in America, in Asia as well. So there's some people who want cap and trade, and there's some people, especially regulators, they say, no, we'll have carbon trade. Now, sorry, carbon taxes. So what we find in our little mathematical model is that actually these two, both schemes lead to the same level of total surplus in the economy. They lead to the same level of reduction in carbon emissions across the two firms in the industry. Okay. The only difference between the two is that in the carbon tax scheme, what happens? The government derives higher taxes, and in the cap and trade scheme, the companies get more profit. So that's the only difference. So these two schemes, which apparently people think of in very different ways, essentially the same. And obviously, as you might imagine, the companies they vociferously argue for cap and trade for obvious reasons, and the governments vociferously argue for carbon trade taxes for obvious reasons. So the second finding, which is a little bit more interesting, is that the low quality firm has always achieves a lower total emission than the high quality firm. And this is intriguing. So you would think that, high-end firms with a lot of money would do more for carbon emission reduction. But this model tells us otherwise. And the reason is pretty simple when you think about it. Since a low quality firm earns a lower profit, it has lower prices, obviously. What happens is the marginal effect of an additional tax on emissions is higher as a proportion to profit than the high quality firm, which earns more, prices more. So the low quality firm tries harder to reduce emissions because otherwise it'll make even less profit. The high quality firm, on the other hand, has lower marginal effect of these carbon taxes on its profit, and therefore it affords to pay some carbon taxes. Okay, so this is one remarkable, I think, result from our analysis, which was not known. And the second part, so here, stable industry, stable demand, stable sales across companies is pretty good, and you can impose cap and trade or carbon taxes. But when you have a situation when the industry is rapidly changing, either declining or expanding, then the overall sales are also changing rapidly, right? So how do you then give incentives based on sales, which are itself changing? So typically, the government's thought of using the same idea of cap and trade and carbon tax. Instead of giving them a total volume of emission, they say certain rate of emission. Okay. And we worked this situation as well. And what we find is that in rapidly changing industries, again, the low quality firm, for again the same reasons, will reduce more emissions. That is, end up with lower net CFP, carbon footprint, than the high quality firm. But here, there are lots of other things that'll happen. Sometimes the government will earn more. Sometimes the firms will earn more, depending on various conditions. And those details are in the paper. But the interesting thing is that this idea that low quality firms will always have a lower carbon footprint if the government optimally chooses the incentives for reduction of carbon emissions. That's the main finding here. All right. Um, I'm basically done with what I have to say. um, okay, this is what should I talk about this?
Sure, I think Dima could probably
Or
pitch in as
Dima,
well.
I don't know if you,
Yeah.
up to you. Dima,
Really
maybe.
interesting.
Yeah, so maybe I can say a few words. Well, as potential DBA candidates, one of the first questions and challenge is to pick a research topic. So let's start there. I know many people come, they have a vague idea about the topic that they want to research, and it's not easy really to decide what you want to focus on in your research. So I have a few maybe tips or advice to give you as you're starting to think about your research topics. So first of all, let's take an example, digitalization. So this is a topic that nowadays we find many candidates coming and saying, well, now our company is going through a digitalization process or introducing AI and so on, and I want to research this. So my advice would be to tell you, okay, digitalization, but from which perspective you want to look at it. So you can look at it from a strategy perspective, you can look at it from an information system management perspective, you can look at it from the perspective of your employees and the impact on the employees in the company when it comes to digitalization. You might look at it from a customer experience perspective. So you need to think about how can I be very specific and narrow down my interest in the topic. So that would be a first advice I would give you as you're starting to think about your topic. The second thing is about the expertise that you bring to the topic. So as I said earlier, the DBA really bridges the two words of academia, academic research, empirical research, and so what can you bring? What's your expertise and how it can contribute to the topic that you're researching? So that would be another thing to consider. A third thing to consider is potential access to data. So the DBA is about conducting research, empirical research. Sumitra just shared with us an example of research. So when you're thinking about the topic that you want to research, you might want to consider what kind of information I need to have access to, what kind of data I need to have access to that would help me really answer the question or address the topic, the problem that I want to investigate. So that would be another thing you could consider. Also, you might want to think about the research methods. So Sumitra talked about different types of research methods earlier. So it could be quantitative or qualitative. So the type of methods you might pick at the end might be relevant to the topic you choose. So how we address a topic, how we answer a research question might dictate the methods that we choose, but also you need to look at your own preference, what type of methods you're comfortable with, and so on. So yeah, these maybe are a few tips to help you maybe with your thinking process now as you're considering the DBA and the topic that you want to pursue.
Right. Thank you to both of you. And thank you, Sumitro, for giving us a very good example. And we could see both the policy and the industry implications of your work. And I think people will be able to relate this back to their own projects. And for Dima for getting the ball rolling for some of these ideas for people. So let's take a look at the program itself. We'll take a quick glance at why the GEM DBA. So please excuse me just 1 second here. All right, so a bit about our program. So you can complete this program in just 3 years. So we're structured to be both comprehensive and efficient. So you finish this while maintaining your full-time job and balancing your work and study. We are a triple accredited business school, so we're among an elite group of business schools in the top 1% worldwide to hold the AACSB, AMBA, and EQUIS accreditation, guaranteeing high standards of our program. We offer 2 programs, which I'll get into in a minute, DBA France and DBA USA. We offer this in a blended format because we understand that it's difficult to study while working. So you will come for about 4 sessions, which we'll explain in a second, and the rest will be done online and working with your supervisor. In year 3, we offer a specialization, which Dima will share with us in a second, which will give you some more opportunities to take a deeper dive into research and get more experience. We are one of Europe's most experienced DBA programs, one of the oldest, and probably one of the most well-respected and recognized as well. We have over 650 alumni across the globe. You will also learn from international subject matter experts. So you'll be guided by distinguished faculty that are actively engaged in high-level research, which will ensure mentorship from specialists in your field or topic. We're also a member of EDBAC, so we are very active in the US, and we're one of the top-ranked research business schools in France. So our program brings together an international cohort offering participants the opportunity to expand their global network. So we have a program in the US and France, but we bring these 2 cohorts together for quite a few of our sessions. And you have opportunities to come to Grenoble and Paris, and as well as Los Angeles for our USA cohort. Our online workshops and supervision are structured to accommodate international schedules as well. And for our Swiss residents, we also have a partnership with HEG Geneva, which we're happy to share some more information with you about that. And with that, I will hand the reins to Professor Lewis again, who can explain a little bit of our program schedule and the specializations.
So as you can see here, and I think Ginny will share with you the slides if you're interested about the program. So here you have the structure of the 3 years. So the pieces that you see in red in this figure are the deliverables. So while the outcome of the DBA is to write a final thesis, you will have deliverables in each year that will help you break down the thesis into smaller steps. So in year 1, you will start with the opening seminar in November in Grenoble, which is the Introduction to Research Methods. That will prepare you for the first deliverable, which is the Extended Research Proposal, due in March. Then in March, you have Seminar 2, and this is where we start getting into more details in terms of conducting the literature review, preparing your research design. And year 1 ends with the second deliverable, which is an extended literature review. In year 2, You need to select between two tracks, quantitative or qualitative tracks. So you would have the first year to really think about your method. So even if when you apply, you mention in your application, let's say quantitative methods, you could still change by the end of year one. But by the end of the year one, you really need to pick one track, quantitative or qualitative. And then in year two, you'll have two seminars that are really about the research methods, data collection, data analysis, and advanced research methods. In year two, you will have an important milestone, which is the dissertation proposal submission. And this is an important milestone because you will need to have an oral defense, so defend your dissertation proposal in front of jury members who will validate whether you can proceed to stage 2 of your DBA journey or whether you need to rework your dissertation proposal. Once you proceed to phase 2 of your DBA journey, it means this is when you actually start your field work. You start collecting data, you're starting analyzing data. And then year 3 will be dedicated to actually writing your thesis. In year 3 as well, we have the specializations that Ginny mentioned. So we offer 3 different specializations: sustainability, managing technology and innovation, and managing and leading people. So these specializations do not have to be linked to your research topics. So you could be doing research on digital marketing, for example, and choose as a specialization sustainability. The objective of this specialization is really for you to learn and gain knowledge from the expertise of our faculty members. So these 3 specializations are really at the core of the research that we do at GEM, and we feel that these are topics that are relevant to many people in different organizations. So in addition to the knowledge that you're going to gain in terms of research methods, you'll have the opportunity to specialize within in an additional topic, even if it's not strictly related to your topic. So the specialization is a series of short webinars that will take place throughout the year with a short deliverable that you need to submit at the end of the year to validate the specialization. So that's tried to be very brief, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to further explain. Ginny?
All right, thank you. Let's get to one of the harder parts here, and the research, I guess, applying, right? There's probably stuff that's on people's mind quite a bit is, the Dima dived into it a bit, or, how to go about your topic. Dima, would you like to present this?
Yeah, sure. So, so the application form that you'll need to prepare includes 4 different sections. So first, you'll need to present the managerial business issue that you want to investigate. So as I said earlier, usually it's related to something that you're experiencing now at your workplace and something that you want to try to find a solution to, an answer to. So you need to problematize. You need to show us in your application why this issue that you're presenting is really important and relevant and why it hasn't been addressed before. So how you're going to bring something new by addressing this research. Then the second part, and this is, I know, a part that many applicants struggled with, is the part on the current state of knowledge on this topic. So here we don't expect you to complete a literature review, but we expect you to start familiarizing yourself with the academic literature on the topic. So at least identify 4 or 5 key references. I know many of you would be probably more familiar with management books, but we want you as well to look at academic publications, academic references. And here, one easy place to start with is Google Scholar. So this is a place where you can find lots of references, many academic papers that are open access. So what we expect you to do is really to identify 4 or 5 academic references that are relevant to your topic and write a short paragraph explaining what did you take from those readings and how you can relate your topic to this existing literature. Then the third part is about the methods. So as I've said earlier, whatever you put in your application form, we know for sure that it's going to evolve. So even if you state a research topic or a research question, it doesn't mean that you're committing to it. Similarly to the methods, if you state that you plan to conduct interviews or to do a survey, it doesn't mean that you're committing to it. What we want to see is that you're really starting to think about it. But then when you start the program, the seminars, the workshops that you're going to attend are going to help you really address these issues. We just want to see that you're starting to think about it. And I know lots of applicants come, they want to do everything, qualitative, quantitative, interviews, surveys, case studies. And it shows the strong motivation to really do a lot and make a big difference, but try to be realistic, knowing that it's a part-time program. It's only 3 years, so it's a lot of work. And realistically, you will not be able to change, to answer all the questions or to change the world. So even if it's a small piece, what the small piece is going to be and how you can answer it. And finally, why you want to do the DBA. So it's important for us to understand your motivations for doing a DBA at this point in time of your career. So.
All right, thank you. That's true. Remember that this is just the beginning of your research career, right? And I'd probably like to add on the second part on stating your current knowledge. It's also important to not just list, a bibliography of where we can find sources. We want to know that you're starting to read academic literature, that you're starting to think about it, what already exists, what can you add to the current state of knowledge. So that's what we'd like to know, that you're starting to really wrap your brain around doing a DBA.
And also,
And
I'll
yes.
just add one final thing. So when you start also familiarizing yourself with the academic literature, that will also help you think about your methods, because in the few academic papers that you're going to identify and start reading, you're going to see a methods section, how the authors in this study have tried to address the topic, have tried to answer the research question, and that will help you think about your methods as well. Yeah, thank you, Ginny.
Thank you. So here's where you can find a bit more information. So there's quite a bit on our website. We have a blog that our alumni and students contribute to regularly. We have quite a few videos and testimonials, and we're really active on LinkedIn. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to share info with you.